Hello, everybody. Roddy Nabulsi here, the publisher of UGAsports.com, with another, let's say, transfer portal recap episode. I should have done this late last night, but it's 11:53 on a Monday morning. So for those of you who have gone back to work, you can watch this over your lunch break. We'll also upload it to YouTube and Facebook as well. Our Facebook page has grown. I know a lot of people think Facebook is outdated, but the fact that we've grown 33,000 followers on Facebook in a couple months, I'm just saying there's still a lot of people there. And we're also trying to get this account, our TikTok account, up to 100,000. That's the goal coming up, so we appreciate that. Big news in the transfer portal yesterday. The Georgia Bulldogs got their first commit in Khalil Barnes, kid from North Oconee, very familiar with the Bulldogs. I know a lot of folks were disappointed when he went to Clemson, and he's had quite the career at Clemson. This is a big get for the Georgia Bulldogs. And we were asked, who's Georgia going after in the transfer portal? And I said, the first thing you have to look for is safeties. They went 0 for 3 on their safeties last year. That's not a shot against Zion Branch or Jaden Harris or Adrian Maddox. Harris is already in the portal. Adrian Maddox has hardly played. And Zion Branch, it's good, but he's not as good as what Georgia has. So, you needed a Caleb Downs, and you got guys who can't play at the level that Georgia did. Now, the funny thing about the safeties that we brought in, I say we, meaning Georgia, the safeties they brought in, we asked Travaris Robinson, the safeties coach, I'm pretty sure it was spring or the first part of the season. Either way, before the season started, we said, hey, tell us about those 3 safeties you brought in. What have you seen from them? And I'll get your question there in a second, Gavin. He said, we've learned that basically just because you started somewhere else doesn't mean you can start at the University of Georgia. I thought that was a polite way of saying they're not very good or they have a lot to learn. It was a very political answer, but I mean, it was telling. It was very telling. Normally a coach would never say anything like that. So that was a freaking shock, that he was just very, what's the word? I would say cavalier about it, just point blanks, like, yeah, this is that's how it's going to be. So I was thinking maybe as the season progressed, those guys would do more, but they did not. Gavin says, is there going to be a quarterback? Is it going to be a quarterback next year? Georgia looked in the portal last year with the same 3 quarterbacks on campus. You had Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi, and Ryan Montgomery coming in, although he had the surgery. So Georgia was basically down to 2 quarterbacks. They looked at transfer portal quarterbacks last year. They had the kid from Charlotte come in. They had Fernando Mendoza came in. I know a guy who was very much involved in the Fernando Mendoza sweepstakes and as to how much he was going to contribute to NIL and have him, be a spokesman for the company. Georgia was really trying to get Fernando Mendoza. And it wasn't a lack of faith in Gunnar Stockton. It's just you only had 3 quarterbacks. You had 1 QB who had taken snaps and who was about to start his first game. Because remember, these quarterbacks came in during Georgia's bowl practice because the transfer portal opened much earlier. So those guys came in and were looking around. They looked at Jackson Arnold, who wound up at Auburn. But Georgia wouldn't promise anybody a starting job, and they weren't going to pay what some of these other schools did because they had 3 good quarterbacks. If you're Indiana, you don't have a QB, well, you got to pay what the market says, and you have to promise him that he will be the starter. I'm not saying they promised it, but the competition at Georgia would be much harder than it would be at Indiana. Come to Georgia, you got to beat out Gunnar Stockton. Go to some of these other schools and you just walk right in. So they will be looking at quarterbacks this year, but I asked Mike Bowe that directly, and we'll post it here in a little bit. I was like, hey, are you going to look at quarterbacks in the portal? And he goes, I'm not going to answer that. I'm like, why? So that kind of, I don't say ticked me off. It's just like, you don't, there's nothing to say here that would, there's nothing to say here that can be, I was going to say taken out of context, but that's not correct. People would take it out of context. But saying that I would refuse to answer is, almost feels like you're hiding something. There is a political answer, just saying, look, we're going to evaluate all our options. Or just say, yeah, we don't have, because Kirby was asked the same question last year and said, yeah, we looked at quarterbacks. We only had 3 scholarship quarterbacks. We need 4 to run practice. They run 2 spots, i.e. the offensive defense are going head to head on one half of the field, and on the other half, the offense and defense are going head to head. So you can be, instead of the team running 1 play at a time, they're running 2 plays at a time. They're running 2 sets of offensive lines, 2 sets of defensive lines, 2 sets of tight ends and cornerbacks and linebackers and safeties. So that's why everybody gets so many reps. So, but if you only have 3 quarterbacks, and of course you have some walk-ons, but they want 4, and we've seen how quarterbacks get injured. So they will be looking at transfer portal quarterbacks. The bigger question, Gavin, is will they get one? That's a much bigger one. Rob G says Bobo and Schumann need to go. Now, Rob, I appreciate your comment simply because, and this is why I always get called a Mike Bobo defender, is because I point out the defense has not been great also. And people love to, insert an agenda into your words, and it drives me freaking sideways. I'm like, that's me saying that the defense also sucks is not saying the offense is good. 2 things can be true at one time. So although, Rob, I may disagree with you or agree with you, I do appreciate the equal opportunity accountability. That's just, call out everybody. Don't just call out the guy that you heard your other friends are mad at. Call out everybody. In 2 meetings with Ole Miss, you got pantsed. Absolutely butt spanked by that Ole Miss offense. So I'm just saying, if Mike Bobo needs to go, then so does Glenn Schumann. Fire them all. Fire them both. Fire everybody. I'm with you. Justin, any word on Zach Branch returning? So I thought it was like 20%. And now I would say maybe it's about 35, 40%. I'm not expecting him to return. I don't think there's enough. He loves it here in Athens. He wants to be a part of the team. He loves playing with his brother. They are a absolute godsend to the university, but he could be a top 50 pick. And even if Georgia were to give him quite the compensation package to stay, it's just too much to pass up, that shot at the NFL. So it's really going to come down to what is his NFL grade. So the University of Georgia can ask for a limited number of players to get graded by the NFL draft, and they'll look at everything, and then the NFL will say, hey, we predict you to be either, basically it's like, I think it's 1 to 3, a 1st to 3rd round pick, or they don't say we expect you 4, 5, 6, or 7. They just say yes or no on 1st to 3rd round. And if he's not in that group, then maybe he comes back. The only reason I go from 20% to say 40% is because he really, really loves it in Athens. And if you talk to anybody inside the program about the Branch brothers, they rave about them. They absolutely rave about them. They talk about what wonderful kids they are. I say kids, they're young men, but talk about a culture fit, leadership. Everybody loves them. And I just thought that was quite impressive in this kind of time of mercenaries in college football. So, and I'm not trying to be mean, calling them mercenaries. Just saying that a lot of the kids going into the portal are doing so because they're trying to make more money and improve their situation. They may love the school they're at, but they need to do what's best for them. And that is the nature of college football right now. And the Branch brothers did it, but they came to Georgia and absolutely fit in. They love the culture at Georgia. Its culture met with their morals and standards, and I'm going to miss Zach Branch. And everybody inside the building will as well. 6'7" Hunts. I know that name. Is Friedling the most important guy to retain besides Branch? That is a damn good question. Ooh. I'm going to put that up there. And I know that everyone's like, oh, he missed a block. Well, there was a ball that should have been snapped. That's why he could have, and he'll miss a block. Hey, guys miss blocks. I mean, you're going up against the best defensive edge rushers in the world. So you won't win them all, but he wins so many, far more than he loses. And to answer that question, let's think about who do you have to retain? You don't have a lot of huge offensive weapons that are irreplaceable except Zachariah Branch. You don't have a Zachariah Branch. You can replace Dylan Bell. You can replace Colby Young. You can replace Oscar Delp. You can replace your running backs. There's running backs, come behind them. Replacing quarterbacks is tough because Gunnar Stockton just he just tied for second in all-time passing percentage, completion percentage at the University of Georgia. So it's like 69.4, 69.7, something like that. The only guy he's behind is Carson Beck. So his percentage of completed passes were pretty good. You've got guys in the secondary. In other words, the people that you could possibly lose, those would be more guys to the transfer portal than anything else. So you don't have a lot of offensive tackles, man. That's the thing. You don't have a ton of them. So I'm thinking, and I had not thought of this question before. That's why I say it's a really good one there, 6'7". Yeah, keeping Freeling and Ernest Green, that would be huge. Gav says, is Gunnar Stockton going to the NFL? I don't know. No, he's not going to the NFL, but I said this on our last show. You're going to have to pay him what he's worth. The list of guys at the University of Georgia whom we've heard from sources inside the building that other schools have reached out to, they're not in the portal, but other schools have reached out to them saying, hey, come to our school. Come to this school. What are you making? We can pay you more than that. Oh, you're not starting. It's mostly non-starters, guys who are, let's say I'll use Chris Cole as an example, or Justin Williams, a guy on the, an inside linebacker who's really good. You've seen him when he gets out there. He does he makes big plays. He makes a big impact when he gets on the field. But it's usually like on the third down package. But he's not out there on first and second down. You reach out to a guy like that and say, hey, come to Kansas and you can be the starter and we'll pay you, $1.3 million. You're making $500,000 or $800,000 now. Come out, we'll double your pay and you'll be a starter. But he's not in the portal, but there's an offer on the table. And I'm not saying any of this is true with Justin Williams, although it's not out of the realm of possibility and maybe not out of the realm of some of the rumors we've heard. But this long list of guys that have been reached out to, you got to think that multiple people have reached out to Gunnar Stockton. I know people are kind of upset with him because of this last game, but this was a guy who, he put up points on a lot of teams. He's an absolute difference maker. Against Ole Miss the first time, he threw he had 5 touchdowns and threw 5 interceptions. Just freakish. He's won multiple Manning Awards and Player of the Week awards. So you have a good quarterback at the University of Georgia. I know people want to shit on him, and that's because they don't understand football, or at least they don't understand what good quarterback play looks like. And yeah, there's times that he makes mistakes. Would you rather have, how many other quarterbacks out there would you like to have? Trinidad Chambliss, yeah, but nobody knew who the hell he was. Julian Sayin? I don't know. Ty Simpson? I don't know. Just saying, this is a good kid. So other teams are going to reach out to him, to Gunnar, and probably put a huge offer on the table. So you better be sure that you can match it or at least be in the same ballpark. So, but no, I don't see him going to the NFL this year. He's only a 1-year starter. He needs to show some more. When does Zach have to have his decision by? I think he's got a few weeks on that. So I wish Bennett was still at UGA. He's like 37 years old. But yeah, Stetson Bennett was a hell of a player. And here's the thing. Remember the first, God, I can go back to when Todd Monken started, oh God, who was that other quarterback that was so bad against Arkansas? And then Stetson Bennett had to come in and save him. Oh, I can't can't think of the name. I just saw his face the other day. Yeah, Dwan Mathis. Thank you, chat. I appreciate that. So, remember, Dwan Mathis was out there, and then later on, you had the JD. You basically had Stetson Bennett in that first year starting, where he came in and takes the team. They win the title, and barely win the title. Yeah, I know it's 33-18, but you got to remember that first 3 quarters of that game sucked. The second year, they go 15-0. Stetson Bennett looks like a completely different dude. Year 1 to year 2. Could Gunnar Stockton have the same year 1 to year 2 mastery? Could be something pretty special there. Thanks, Luke, and Chain Snatcher for the Dwayne Mathis thing. I was losing my mind there. Now, it wasn't JT Daniels. JT, that's another story. We'll have to do Uncle Roddy's story hour on JT Daniels some other time there. Miguel, so what I was saying is Gunnar could leave and transfer. You saw it with Carson Beck. And again, I'm not saying that he wouldn't or he will. I'm just saying it's definitely a possibility because you got teams coming after all of your good players. And is Georgia going after some of theirs? I have to think they are. I'm just going to say, I know Kirby and a lot of the people inside the University of Georgia know that their players are being tampered with. Teams are reaching out to their players, trying to get them to switch. You'd be a dumbass not to do the exact same thing. You're going to let people tamper with your players, and you're not going to try to go get good players somewhere else. Nuke says, Kirby's loyalty to Bobo is going to cost us to never win another natty. I will tell you one thing, and I will stake my professional career on it. The reason Kirby keeps Mike Bobo in Athens is not out of loyalty. It's not out of friendship. Kirby thinks he's a damn good coordinator. If Kirby has fired his friends before. He's fired people he likes. He will dump it. Now, Justin has a very good comment here. He says, I don't think Gunnar cares about the money, honestly. This is and I'm not busting on you, Justin. I hear this a lot because Mike Bobo got up before the bowl game and he was asked about Gunnar Stockton. He's like, Gunnar plays for Georgia. Capital F-O-R. He plays for Georgia, not for himself. And yeah, he does. He is a throwback. He is a, logo guy. He plays for the G on the helmet, not his name on the back. He wants to be the guy to win it for Georgia. But at the same time, we have questions about, will he go to the NFL? Will he be successful in the NFL? Is he better than Stetson Bennett? Stetson's a backup. There's only 32 NFL jobs where you're a starter. Now, being a backup QB in the NFL is fantastic. It's a great gig, and if you can do it a long time, you can make a lot of money and have a great life and not get beat all to hell. But do you guys see him being a huge NFL QB? And if you say no, when's he going to make his most money? Next year. Next year. Next year is the year. So he's got to maximize that 1 year. And if he's making $1.3 million or $2 million in Georgia, and Oklahoma comes and offers him $4 million, or someone offers him, Carson Beck money to go to Miami, $4 million, like I can double it. You know how many cows he can buy for that? And it sets him up for life. I know, I'm with you, Justin. He doesn't care about the money, but at some point you got to do what's right for your career, and the people around him will say, look, you got to do something. And the boy is loyal, and he's about the University of Georgia, but at some point, the university has to be loyal to him. Pay him what he's worth so that it's not even a consideration. Don't say, oh, well, we don't need to pay him because he loves Georgia. Well, now you're taking advantage of it, so don't screw him over. Harrison says, do you think Zach Bratch comes and plays another year with his brother? I give it about 40%, and that's up from 20%. Heather, what, if any, positions do you think we need to utilize the portal for? Well, you just got a safety. So I started off talking about that, and I got sidetracked as usual. Khalil Barnes, he was at Clemson. Remember, he was at North Oconee, which is right outside of Athens, Georgia. He's come to games all for years. It was a lot of people were sad that when he went to Clemson because Georgia recruited him, but he fit in over there. But let's talk about his 3 seasons at Clemson. This is a safety. He played almost 2,000 snaps. His PFF grade was 71.7, almost 72. That is very good, you know. So I know it. Don't think of it as like 0 to 100. PFF does their stuff a little bit weird. His coverage grade is a 75.8, which means he's a good cover safety. He has 7 career interceptions and 8 pass breakups. That's what Georgia needed this year. You saw what happened, and it's not a shot against Corey Thomas, but he's not the best safety they had. And then he goes out and you put in Zion Branch, and so you didn't have great safety play this year, and it showed. So getting Khalil Barnes is a big get, and that's like the 3rd guy you have now from North Oconee High School. I mean, they're pretty damn good. And here's the other thing. There's another kid we need to talk about because we're kind of doing a portal recap. Gentry Williams. He's the safety at Oklahoma. He arrived in town on Saturday evening and took a visit. Hearing that Georgia really likes where they're sitting with Gentry Williams. Now, if you talk to the people at Oklahoma, like we did, they say, man, the fans love Gentry Williams, and because he's a big play safety. He's a big play guy, but he's been hurt a lot. He got hurt. I think he had a shoulder issue and maybe had some sort of surgery earlier this year. And it's like when he was healthy and when he was out there, they're like, this guy is a fantastic player, but he's just never out there. So they're kind of sad to lose him because he's a fan favorite, and they kept expecting him to really do something, but just the fact that he's been so injured so many times or couldn't play enough, that's kind of drove the Oklahoma fan base a little loony. But Georgia likes him, Georgia needs him, and right now, after his visits, Georgia's in a prime position to land him. So Heather, that's one of your questions. You know, who they need to get safeties, edge rushers, wide receivers. You're losing a lot of wide receivers to graduation and to the NFL. You got to replace that production. Offensive and defensive line, always. I don't care how many offensive linemen you have, how many defensive linemen you have. If there's somebody who is good at that, got to bring them in. And why only try to restock your offensive line and defensive line from the players on your team? Why not try to get the best in the nation? So, Kirby keeps Bobo, send him and Bobo on and bring in Dan Lanning. Yeah. So you want to fire him and get Dan Lanning here? Okay. That's a ballsy move. Heather says, do you think we have a shot at Cam Coleman from Auburn? No. Yes. No. Yes. And I'm not trying to be facetious there. It's just we knew that. I mean, we put in a war room in November, I think, that if Cam Coleman goes in the portal, he's got a great relationship with Georgia, and Georgia would be a team to watch. Then mid-December, we're like, Cam Coleman's camp wants $2 million. Georgia said, no thanks. Texas A&M has already said yes. Long before the portal's open. Now he's gone to Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, where all the oil money is. And we're hearing rumors of like $3.5 million. Can't see Georgia doing that. I just can't, because they can get other players for a lot less who are really, really good. But then we talked to people inside the program. They're like, yeah, we're still in the Cam Coleman sweepstakes. We talked to people who are in, do NIL. They're like, yeah, I was called in to, I just had a conversation with so-and-so about Cam Coleman. Okay. So, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. That's what we keep. Every time we hear that the money goes up, we hear Georgia's out, but then we find out they're still in it. So, it would blow my mind if he did, but that'd be big. Some other guys to look at. There's the Alabama kid, Jalen Mbakwe. I know I always say it wrong. He's kind of a offense and defensive guy. We were told that he played defensive back and wide receiver for the Tide, and we were told that he was drawing interest from Georgia. Folks inside Georgia said no, he's not in the mix. So I don't want to go against our reporting from Pete over at On3, but I think that might be one of the agents saying, oh yeah, Georgia's really interested in him, makes him look good. Also, keep an eye on some of the edge guys. There's a pair of SEC edge rushers. You got the Tennessee transfer, Caleb Herring, and Auburn's Amaris Williams. They're going to take visits to Georgia. And we just had an update at UGAsports.com about a rescheduling of one of those visits. So we've almost had 300,000 people look at our transfer portal thread on UGAsports.com. It's right at the very top. Has all the latest updates on it. And also on our front page, we have those all the updates mentioned. So we update it every day. Every time something, kids got interest in Georgia or is offered by Georgia or is taking a visit, we put it in that thread. So if you really want all the updates, you can, as they happen. Because I've seen a lot of questions and I'm like, oh, we have that answer that in the story. We have the answer to that in the story. And I don't want to just read the whole story. But I'm just saying, and right now, if you're not a member of UGAsports.com, sign up. It's 50% off. It'll be 50% off while the transfer portal's open. This is just kind of a recap show, and we'll have another one tonight at 7. So this was one I was supposed to do last night, so we're doing it now. So we're covering the Falcons today, right? No, it's funny you say that because we have a show on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter called Peach State Power Hour, where we talk about all the sports in the state of Georgia. Braves, Falcons, Hawks, Bulldogs, some Tech, but all the stuff's going on. And they did a show last night that it came out that the Falcons had fired Morris, and they did wind up turn around and did a second show. So, hey, Connor, thank you for following us. I really do appreciate when people follow our page. I've mentioned before that we were growing super fast, and then I don't know, maybe I liked the wrong person's TikTok or tweet or something, but all of a sudden we were just on the outs, and we've been fighting with TikTok and Twitter ever since. So maybe I said the wrong thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I fit the description, being half Palestinian, maybe that gets me in trouble. Who knows? What about the kid from Georgia Tech? Yeah, Isaiah Canyon. He is on Georgia's short list. That is so down south Georgia dog. I appreciate you jumping in here. That is definitely a possibility. That is one of the kids I told our staff. Georgia has him as a priority, and Jed May, who's our fantastic recruiting writer and team writer, he went ahead and wrote a commitment story just in case. We don't do that if we don't think that there's a possibility the kid pops. So you don't want to just waste your time with something like that. So Miguel, Todd Hartley should be our future offensive coordinator. Can't afford to lose him. You cannot. Todd Hartley is great. He is going to be a fantastic offensive coordinator. He's going to be an even better head coach. And I hope that he does it at the University of Georgia when Kirby steps down so that I can cover Todd Hartley's career, because I really like that guy. He's just funny. He's hilarious. I like a funny coach. He'll probably be just as big a pain in the butt, not letting us talk to the players like Kirby does, because he's learned from Kirby. But Todd Hartley is an absolute riot, and you couldn't find anybody who wants to win for the University of Georgia more than Todd Hartley. He is a graduate of the University of Georgia, so he's a big guy. I mean, big Georgia guy. Defensive lineman Keeley from Alabama. There, that's I have not heard as much about him as I have the others. I know that we have him in yesterday's update, but I'm looking for more on him. I am looking at this kid, Shaz Preston. That's from Tulane. Went to Alabama and then is at Tulane, and it's pretty good. Another guy to keep an eye on. Let's see here. Hey, Dalton's an alum. I appreciate that. C.J. Allen going to the NFL? I'm almost certain he is. I don't think Raylan Wilson is. Actually, after the game was over, I put a note on our board because of some of the comments I had heard at the Sugar Bowl inside the Superdome that Raylan Wilson was coming back. So, again, that could change. And a lot of that, because the minute the season ends, that's when you start asking a lot of those questions. Hey, you wouldn't talk about it when you had an upcoming game, but are you going to then, let us know if you're going to the NFL, and the kid will say yes or no. or I haven't thought about it, or I need to talk about it with my family, and we need to talk about it with our agent. So many of times they say, yeah, this was my last game. A lot of times they say, no, I'm coming back. When they say no, you have to take it with a grain of salt because they just lost and they're pissed off. They're like, no, I'm coming back to, we're going to come back and we're going to beat this team next year. We're going to win this game. So I'm not saying that what the news I heard about Raylan Wilson was in the heat of the moment. And like I said, this was a fantastic source, so I expect him to come back. I expect C.J. Allen to go pro. C.J. Allen has nothing left to prove. I think, did he lead the SEC in tackles? I mean, I know at one point he was. So let me look up stats here real quick. Tackles. No, he had 88, and Devon Keys at LSU had 92. So he's 4 off from having the most tackles. So that's pretty badass, you know. 47 of those were solos. So yeah, I mean, that's the guy that gets drafted. He's an absolute monster, and he should go. Matter of fact, Kirby Smart may probably make him pack his stuff and get him out there. So, what about Branch? I think he goes too, because I think he's going to be. There's 32 picks in the first round, 32 in the second round. Now you're at 64 picks. Do you think he's one of the top 64 players in the nation? I think so. Or even as a third round pick. Now you're starting to get into a situation where money, you could, for the 1 year, you could almost match what he might make as a third, fourth, fifth round pick. But you got to think he's in the top 64 players somewhere. Has there been any word on if Freeling is declaring? He cost us a lot this season. He also saved your ass a lot. Give and take. I mean, think of that Auburn game where he's out and Georgia's getting smoked on the edge. He comes in on one leg and is named SEC Player of the Week, or SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. He's pretty good. DVC, I'm not sure if you're trolling me here, but I'll take it as a legit question anyway. Do you think Puglisi will beat out Gunner next season? I think Puglisi has the better arm. He chucks it downfield. The problem is he throws a lot of interceptions in practice. And if he throws a lot of interceptions, or at least he did. He used to. So there's a time in fall camp where they're like, I was talking to people and they're like, no, that kid is not going to be, he's not going to win this job because he just can't. He turns the ball over. And that's Kirby's number one bugaboo. That's his number one issue. You cannot turn the ball over. He loses his damn mind if you turn it over. So now, Puglisi may not be doing that anymore. And it happens with young quarterbacks. You know, you got to mature into the role. So maybe he doesn't do that, and he's a little more. I mean, I don't want to say accurate. I mean, Gunnar Stockton's accurate. Just set the season tied for the second highest completion percentage ever by a Georgia Bulldog quarterback. And he also has scored some of the most touchdowns for Georgia in a long time. Running them, I think he's scored 10. That's insane. Anyway, with the experience Gunnar has, 14 starts, that would be tough for even a quarterback who has, say, a little bit more accurate or a stronger arm, because arm strength, as we know, Georgia doesn't attack downfield a ton, so it doesn't really matter. It's command of the offense and getting them into the right decisions, calling the right plays. Because remember, go to the line, you've got multiple options that you can, on the play that you can call. Then on that, when you call that play, or let's say you check out of the play that was called, you go to a different check. Multiple decisions you have to make on that play. So can Puglisi beat him out with all that experience? I just tend to doubt it. I really do. Do you think Dylan Bell's going to stay? He cannot. He has to graduate. Right now, PR Reynolds home sales says, are we losing anyone major to the portal? Yes, but not yet. It hasn't happened yet. I say yes, not because I have this secret knowledge, although I do know some guys they're fighting to keep, and some guys that have been approached who are not in the portal yet. I'm taking the field, basically. You've always lost somebody important to the portal. I would be beyond stunned if you didn't lose someone important to the portal. Now, we actually have a portal ranking system that we invented the other day. Because that question comes up, PR, and they say, or P. Reynolds, excuse me. They say, oh, we lost Jaden Harris. We lost, go back to like Micaiah Tongue when he left, Like, is that a big loss? Is it a big loss? Well, let's put this in a way people can understand. Let's look at how much they started. Like Chris Jones, the inside outside linebacker. He came in as an inside linebacker. They moved him outside. He's kind of been between both, and he hasn't really excelled at either. He's a good player, hell of a player, but is he going to be a starting inside guy? No. Is he going to be a starting outside guy? No. So he doesn't really have a home right now. So Chris Jones goes, and we said, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this? 1 would be an Arik Gilbert who never played, who had outside issues, who losing him is just really freeing up a spot, versus a 10 being, say, a Damon Wilson, a first-round pick, Jeremiah Johnson, a Bear Alexander, somebody you needed. We'll call that a 10. So right now, you've only lost a bunch of 2s and 3s and 1 4. So, and each time someone goes in the portal, we will put out an article saying, we call it departure cost. What is the cost of this person's departure? 1 to 10. And right now you've lost some 2, 3s, and 4s. Now, will there be a 7, 8, 9, 10 on there? There has been one every year, multiples. Okay. Why would this year be different? Maybe with the revenue sharing, but I mean, there's so many kids in the portal. I just don't think that the big ones have hit yet because they're in negotiations. A lot of kids are going into the portal, already have a home lined up, or at least 3 or 4 places said, hey, we'll meet your expectations. So then you see them start taking visits. They take multiple visits to these places. They take multiple visits to different places who've already basically agreed to their core demands. Now, they may go up, they may slide down, the team offers less or something, or that team gets somebody at that kid's position and, pulls back their offer. But yeah, you will lose someone, but I can't think of anybody right now. Dr. Hayes says he threw 100 screen passes. He did. He also threw a ton that were not screen passes. He was better, more accurate down the field than Carson Beck was. Yeah, it's good stuff. This helps keep it in perspective. Rankings and additions similarly would be great. Yeah, we will do the same thing. But if you guys want to brainstorm with me, I would very much appreciate the chat's help on coming up with a title for that story. So we need to do a Khalil Barnes one, because that's the first one you got. You might be getting Gentry Williams, Isaiah Canyon kid from Georgia Tech. When these kids leave, we call it departure cost. And when Rivals came out years ago, and every time Georgia or anybody would lose a commitment, they would write a story called Sting Factor. How bad did it sting to lose this commitment? Say you flipped or went somewhere else. And I always hated that. A, because it's very Georgia Tech-like, and B, they would post it on the front page of my website or the Clemson website or the Tennessee website. And we're like, look, people don't want to talk about this son of a bitch anymore. He left, he's gone, screw him. I'm like, don't put that on our front page. Don't rub salt into the wound, squirt of lemon. You don't put that on to these guys that, just lost a kid and, pour lemon in their wounds. So we couldn't go with sting factor. So we came up with cost of departure. But now we have, what does it mean when you get a Khalil Barnes? Impact level, impact factor. If we had like a 1 to 10. So if you guys want to come up with, and I like to keep it about 2 words, impact factor Khalil Barnes. But so if you got any good ideas on what to call it, I would appreciate that. Ella says, big portal move coming soon. That is a evergreen tweet. You could always do that. Any rumors about Mike Bobo going to the NFL? No, but there are schools that would like him. So I asked Mike Bobo directly, Mike, do you have any job offers? Mike's like, I'm happy where I'm at. And I'm like, Mike, that's not what I asked you. Have you had job offers that you've turned down? Has people reached out to your Actually, I think I changed this. Okay, not job offers. Has anyone reached out to you to see if you'd be interested? Because the job offer comes after interviews and such like that. He's like, I'm very happy where I'm at. I'm like, Mike, that's not answering my question. And so I asked him like 3 or 4 times, and he just kept saying, Roddy, I like where I'm at. I'm coaching my son. I'm happy. So, but why am I asking that? And I said, the number one criticism that people throw at Mike Bobo is, well, he's not being hired away. No one's coming after him. And I know that to be false. So I wanted to get him on the record saying who'd come after him, but he wouldn't say. So what do you do? But again, I don't see NFL teams coming after him because he's not an NFL coach. He could be. If you can coach, you can coach. But he loves college football. So, do you think we'll go after a crazy pass rusher? Absolutely. Yes. No question. All right, let me see here. Let Jared Curse go. Watch him struggle behind that bad offensive line. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Kay says, what are your thoughts on the O-line is looking like next year? Man, this is what got me excited. I'll tell the folks here. Right after the game, I said that this Georgia team only lost 2 games by 3 points. I know it was 5, but I don't count that stupid safety at the end. Team grew up at all these positions. You have so many guys who are first-year starters. We talked about the fact that your quarterback is a first-year starter and what he can look like between year 1 and year 2. Same thing on Gabe Harris, same thing on Quintavious Johnson, same thing on Ellis Robinson, same thing on DeMello Jones. Juan Gaston on the offensive line, Dontrell Glover on the offensive line, Drew Bobo on the offensive line. Elias Williams is a tight end. Ethan Barbour is a tight end. Just saying, Nate Frazier is the number 1 back. He wasn't last year. So my point is, all these guys grew up, and I said Georgia should be favored. I mean, when the preseason rankings come out, I guarantee Georgia will probably be at least number 1, if not number 2, but probably number 1. Because people are going to look at how many starters they're returning. Almost all of them. There's just a crap ton of them. And you look at that offensive line. Drew Bobo is coming back, so you got your center back. Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover will be your 2 guards. They'll be sophomores with a year of experience. And they're just massive people movers. And it's very likely that you have Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling back. So you get your entire offensive line back. That could be a nasty, nasty offensive line. So people keep asking about Nate Frazier. I have heard nothing. And that's unusual. We hear stuff. Haven't really been digging that much because the season's over, and I have people who are usually the ones telling me stuff, going, hey, what have you heard on Nate? I'm like, I ain't heard jack. So, I'm getting questions about portal losses. I wish I could spin this around so you guys could read our, see if there's we sell a membership to UGA Sports on 3. It's $120 a year. Right now it's $60 because it's 50% off. I really think if we could sell a membership to the UGA Sports staff group chat, we can make a hell of a lot more money. No, okay, I was just checking to see if there's any new portal losses since Hunter Beard asked. I haven't seen any more today. So Georgia is down, let's see, how many? Does anybody know the total so far? Let's see here, specific portal thread. Georgia lost Roderick Robinson, Jordan Thomas, Daniel Harris, Pierce Spurlin, Chris Jones, Nair Daniels, Jaden Harris. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Yeah, so no new ones that I've seen. Near Beer says, didn't use Elias Williams enough. Just split him out and throw it up, especially in the red zone. Thank you, Near Beer. Oh, my God. Throw him the damn ball. He's a freaking monster. And, again, I know that when he goes out there, they're going to put a linebacker on him just because he's big and strong and usually not a corner. But if you do get a corner on him or a safety, that kid is going to be so much bigger than they are. And even if it is a linebacker, still throw it. So I'm with you, Near Beer. Did not use him enough. But here's the thing. there's a couple times he'd miss blocks and he goes the wrong way. He's so new. He's so raw, but he is going to be an absolute stud. We did a series of interviews. We got to interview almost all the players at the Sugar Bowl, and we took a lot of staff down there. Some outlets that covered the University of Georgia took like 1 or 2 guys, or 3, 4 people. We took 7, and mainly for that first day, where we get to talk to all the players, and we interviewed a ton of players, and we also interviewed the coaches that we don't normally get to talk to. And I started with Todd Hartley, and when you get to talking to Todd, we only had 45 minutes. Todd could have filled that whole 45 minutes, and I would have enjoyed the hell out of it. But I asked him about Elias Williams. I asked him about Ethan Barbour and Lawson Lucky and these guys who will be playing next year. And if Lawson Lucky comes back, which it sounded like his mom said he was coming back. So you get Lawson Lucky back. Get that leader. It's him, Jaden Riddell, and Colton Heinrich if he stays, and then Ethan Barbour and Elias Williams. That is just a filthy tight end room. But the way he talks about Elias Williams, when we write that story, you definitely will be a member of UGAsports.com and see what Hartley said about Ethan. He talks about Ethan Barbour. It's like he's got enough asshole in him to be really good. I like it. Oh, that's a good comment from DVC. I don't even know what it's referring to. I think there's a conversation going on in the midst. It says, call your best players, not your best plays. Well, that is the Kirby Smart mentality. Usually he's like, look, it's not great plays, it's great players. So Heather says, Roderick Robinson, hate that he can't stay healthy. He seems so promising. Absolutely, he really did. And that's my little bit of the fear that I have with this Gentry Williams kid coming in from Oklahoma. He's just been banged up a lot. But again, ton of talent, ton of opportunity. I mean, a ton of potential, not opportunity, ton of potential. And I hope that Gentry comes in. And I hope Rod Robinson's healthy. Everybody on the team loved him. Remember when he scored, the team went ape shit. Excuse my language. They just went nuts for this kid. So, and Georgia actually used him a lot there at the end of the season so that he'd have some film that he could show. Like, hey, I'm going in the portal, can I get a few carries? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So they'll put together a highlight reel for him, and his agent or whoever's representing him or his folks, family, coach, whatever, can send that to the other school so that he gets a good look. So. DVC says portal losses, flush them. Yeah, well, that's what you do. The last day for Gunnar to make his decision, he's got plenty of time. Will UGA go after Dylan Raiola? Not in a million freaking years. Flip the camera. No. Would we spend a crazy amount on a proven pass rusher? Hump111 says. Yes, they will. 2 caveats. 1, has to be proven. And you are hoping it'll be somebody who can prove it at the SEC level. They went after a proven pass rusher last year in Elo Mendoza. Didn't work out as well as a lot of us expected. Heard great things all summer. Kid's fantastic. Okay. Just didn't happen. So, and it has to be a situation where they have to address wide receiver and safety. So if they're spending a crazy amount on wide receiver and safety, that could be the other caveat. Maybe you don't have enough bank left over to get to spend a crazy amount on a proven pass rusher. So, but yeah, you got to have one. I mean, you saw. Hey, look, you had 2 guys who could rush a passer, and it took them till 2/3 of the way through the season before they even got to that point. And then you played Ole Miss without one of them, and you saw what happened. Dude scrambled 3 freaking times on one drive and just destroyed you. So yeah, Hump, you're right. You need to do that. How's Georgia looking for Jalen Mbakwe? I don't think they're recruiting him. Ernest has more eligibility. Yes, he does. Remember, he started very young as like a true, like a redshirt freshman. Okay, John, this is a good point, and I would like to touch on this real quick. People keep complaining about Bobo, but it starts with the head coach. Yes, and again, I will be the one to tell you. I've supposed to be an unbiased, zero empathy reporter. Can't be a homer, can't, try to be objective. And objectively, I will tell you, Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football. Top to bottom. Does he have weaknesses? Yes. Does he do some wrong things? I'm sure. Does he wish he had, certain decisions back? Absolutely. They all do. Tell me who you want to trade him for. I saw someone in there say Dan Lanning. Well, what's Dan won? Don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dan Lanning fan, but Kirby's won 2 titles. That's pretty damn impressive. He's the one that hired Dan Lanning. But it does start with Kirby Smart. So if you want to crap on Glenn Schumann and Mike Bobo, they report to Kirby. If Mike Bobo's not any good and he needs to be fired, that's a Kirby decision. And then people say, well, he won't do it because they're friends. I'm like, well, then that's a Kirby decision. That's a Kirby's fault. But I can tell you from talking to Mike and talking to other people in the program, Kirby doesn't keep his ass around because they're friends. When Kirby got rid of James Coley, remember, they were friends, and that didn't work out. And he knew why James Coley had a bad year that year. They had no wide receivers. They were one-dimensional. They could only run the ball. They lost all their good wide receivers. They were injured, and the kid got kicked off in the summer. So he went in with his hands tied behind his back. And Kirby's like, well, I know that's the reason why it happened, but you didn't hit the standard, so all of a sudden Coley goes to Texas A&M. My point is, Kirby's not blindly loyal. People keep thinking that because it's the only way they can justify the guy that they think is the best coach in the college football continuing on with a offensive coordinator they don't think is very good. It has to be. It can't just be that Kirby thinks he's good. Kirby's too smart for that. No, when Kirby went to replace his offensive coordinator, he went to Mike Bobo first before he went to Todd Monken. Mike was busy. I think he just signed with South Carolina. He'd have hired Mike before he hired Todd Monken. That's who he believes in. They went head-to-head for years. When Kirby was at Alabama and Mike Bobo was at Georgia, they've gone head-to-head on the recruiting trail. He knows. I remember him getting Jay Rome and who's the other one from Valdosta down there. Kirby wanted both of them, and Mike got them. So my point is, Kirby believes in him, and if you want to get rid of Mike, good luck convincing Kirby that. Kirby thinks he's a great guy, and when you look at the totality of the season with all those young players and this new offensive line that lost every starter at one point, you lost tight ends, you lost, you got a new quarterback, you're rebuilding the wide receiver room. They lost 2 games by 3 points. And Kirby, my point, I'm not justifying it, I'm not defending it, I'm just saying in Kirby's mind, it's like, we were damn close. We made a coaching mistake here, a coaching mistake there. We can fix that. I don't need to do a wholesale change. So, any possibility Mike Bobo leaves when his son does? That would shock me. Because, think about it. If Mike Bobo, there's other job opportunities out there, and he knows people crap on him here. You can't say he doesn't read all that stuff. He knows what people say. But he's got the opportunity to coach his kid. How many guys get that opportunity? Right now, if I could go to the University of North Georgia and run Ranger Challenge so that I could coach my son over at Ranger Challenge, hell yeah, I would. I'd learn more about it in 15 minutes than anybody, but just saying it's he's got a good... Malcolm Mitchell, thank you, called 818. Yeah, the Malcolm Mitchell, J. Rome victory was huge. And again, both really good dudes. So... Alex, I missed college football before NIL. Yeah, it is different. But also the same thing with the NIL. That allows you to get a Zach Branch and a Cole Young. So, yeah, Kirby isn't going to put loyalty over winning. That man's the most competent human ever. So, Go Dogs 7234. I'm with you 100%. That is... I just don't understand why people who trust Kirby in every aspect thinks that he's just a dumbass when it comes to Mike Bobo. I get it. If you don't understand what he sees in Mike, then you're like, well, it's got to be due to loyalty or just because they're friends. But I'm like, he's fired friends before. I guarantee you, he'll make maybe, like they say, a staff position hiring based not on friendship, but I was like, I remember they had like a director of ops or something who was from Bainbridge, so from his hometown. So people say, well, he hired him because he's from Bainbridge, and they maybe the families knew each other. That might get you in the door, familiarity, like recruiting. So who's the photos I just put up yesterday of Khalil Barnes? He went to North Laconia High School. Georgia played against him. There's pictures of him going up against London Humphreys. So when Georgia usually goes recruiting kids in the transfer portal, it's usually someone that they recruited before or played against. It's very rare that they go out and say, oh, that kid's at, the long snapper they got from UCLA. It's like, oh, that guy's a defensive end from Cal. We never recruited him, don't know him. They'll go watch the film, but they really like familiarity. It's the same with Kirby Smart. He likes to find guys that he has some familiarity with. So that happens in the industry as well. You've known if this guy's good. You ask around about him. So he hired the guy from Bainbridge and thought it was, that might have gotten him to open the door, but the kid still had to go in and, the young man had to interview. Then he had to do a good job. If you don't nail the interview, Corey Raymond, as a example of that, who had a very bad interview at the University of Georgia, then you don't get the job, even though Kirby knows you and therefore you're friendly. Or if you don't do the job well after you get it, you get fired. Kirby has a lot of turnover. Certain coach in the SEC didn't do a great job when on Kirby Smart's staff, and he let him go, even though they're friendly, friends. So that's how it goes. So disappointed with Elo Mendoza this year. I think a lot of people are. Just because I think we made him up to be bigger in our minds than he was. One of my thoughts when he came to the University of Georgia is like, you're getting a kid from Army. And I remember when Jack Lunam was a walk-on tight end at the University of Georgia. And Jack wanted to play, but his problem was he was in ROTC as well. And at ROTC, when you go on the Norwegian 18-mile ruck with a 35-pound rucksack on your back and you have to march 18 miles, you can't really do that at 280 pounds. So John Lilly always wanted him to get bigger to be a big blocking tight end, but his ROTC duties forced him to stay slim, slimmer. I mean, Jack's still a football player, come on. So I thought when Elo Mendoza came from Army, I'm like, you don't really see huge Army dudes, So maybe need another year in the weight room. Thoughts on McCray this season? I liked Josh McCray, especially that he helped you win that game against Ole Miss, but handing the ball to him and having him run outside the tackles, I'll never, ever, ever, ever understand that. So, any wide receivers in the portal you got your eyes on? Yeah, keep an eye on that kid Isaiah Canyon, however you say it. And there's a bunch of them from the other day in our day 2 recap. Of course, Jace Brown, Kansas State. That's Georgia showing interest on him. I don't know where that stands. That's why I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. I know that they had Mizell. He's definitely on Georgia's short list, and Auburn's Perry Thompson. So, you guys heard the Ryan Williams rumors? I actually asked our board about that because there were some rumors going around that Ryan Williams at Alabama might go in the portal, and I just haven't seen anything legit on that. I know that Georgia's keeping an eye out. Everybody would, but I have not seen anybody of any substance say that this kid's thinking about it. So, thanks for following. I appreciate it. Cam Coleman. Yeah, I had a big Cam Coleman diatribe earlier. With Cam, it's like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. First you hear that he wants $2 million. Georgia says no. Then you hear it's up to 3 point. Then you hear Georgia's like, yeah, okay, we're back in the sweepstakes. Then you hear that he's up to 3.5. Georgia says no. Then you hear they're back in the sweepstakes. So I do not know if they will land Cam Coleman. But I've heard every time I'm like, no, Georgia's out, we get information that Georgia's still in it. So I'm sorry I can't be more definitive. I just tell you folks what we're hearing. Lots of times it turns out to be the gospel, honest truth of how things work out. And lots of times what we're hearing is the snapshot in time. Yes, Georgia's in it. The bidding has gone up higher. Now Georgia's out. Now Georgia's back in it because they've increased their offer. Now Georgia's back out because the bidding went higher. So I'm not trying to obfuscate or hem and haw. I'm just letting you know that's kind of where it goes. All right. Does Peanuts stay? Dwight Phillips Jr. I don't know about that. I'd keep an eye on him and Bo Walker just in case. All right, folks, it is almost 1 o'clock, and I have to run because we're about, for the folks that were joining me on lunch break, they're all about to go back to work. And we've got some issues in the family. I could use your prayers for my wife's father, my father-in-law. He's a fantastic guy. But I am going to go spend some time with him in the hospital today. So if you're a praying person, just a couple things, a couple prayers for Wayne King. I'd appreciate it. I usually don't ask for stuff like that, but he's known me since I was 16 and started coming snooping around his daughter. And there are plenty of times he could have beaten my ass for being a shit kid. And but he's been like a father to me, and I hate to see him like this. So any prayers, I'd appreciate it. All right, folks, y'all take care, and hit the follow button. I'd also appreciate that.